cut up a lot. Let me just say that, BW, we cut up a
I
lot.
don't be cutting up. I don't know what y'all talking about. I'll be present and professional at all times.
And that's why we're going to go ahead and start episode 60. Excuse me, even 73. I can't even talk. Episode 73. Jackie is in a state of shock and pretty catatonic right now. Because Brandy is ridiculous. So thank you all for joining us for episode 73. Thank you for all new subscribers to YouTube and all those joining us from Instagram and Facebook. If you missed episode 72, we did a further recap of The Tinder Swindler, also talked about Inventing Anna. Last week, we did a live on Instagram. So if you missed it, go over to Instagram. It is still there. You can always watch it on Instagram. But we're here for episode 73. So thank you all for joining us for this. And this week, we are going to actually talk about juvenile offenders, whether they should be treated as adults. Is it beneficial to them, to society? Like, just giving our opinions on juvenile offenders and the sentences that they get and all of those things. So we'll talk about that tonight. But as always, I haven't done this in a long time. We haven't gone over the rules and regulations for a very long time. So I'm Brandy. That's Brandy. That's Jackie. Okay, there's two of us and one of her. We are Black Coffee and Crime. We are not law enforcement professionals. We are just people who like to talk about the stuff that we find in the news. We do find this on the interwebs. So if we misspeak or there's some misinformation or something that we did not get, please go ahead and drop a message either here on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook at Black Coffee Crime. And also send it, or you can send us an email at blackcoffeeandcrime.com. Always be respectful, because we like to tussle.
Do we get in trouble?
Sometimes
I'm professional, so I don't even understand.
Why are we bringing this back up again? We got trouble.
I'm just saying, but no, we didn't get in trouble again. I'm just saying because we haven't said it in a long time, and we got some new people coming in. So we want to tell y'all what we do. This is completely unscripted. We never know what we're going to say. We don't have, we have talking points. So we know what we're going to talk about, but not what we're going to say. If anything about this offends you, please skip until you find something that's not offensive. If whatever we talk about triggers you, please go ahead and exit out of the episode. Catch us the next time. We'd rather you not watch than you be traumatized by whatever it is that we say. Also, we're not trying to be malicious to anybody. Again, this is all public information on the interwebs. Anybody can find it. We just choose to talk about it. All right, that's it. So any church announcements this week? Any?
Dang, I was gonna say something, but I forgot.
I just need to pray for a financial blessing.
Girl, yes. Manifest you some dollars.
I need a financial blessing.
Let me tell you about the financial blessing I need. I need a financial blessing because if anybody has recently renewed their car insurance in Texas, Florida, Ohio, your car insurance just increased. I got mine today. And it was like, oh, you're a loyal customer, continuous. No gaps, no nothing, no accidents and all this stuff. But my rate went up an additional $50.
Church money.
That's a living went up in general.
But it went up my last renewal too. So I called her. I was like, this is $100. And so she's like, well, it's the cost of, the state of Texas stopped getting pandemic relief. And I said, I never got any sort of pandemic relief on my car insurance. Like I paid. I always paid. So what are you talking about? So yeah, somebody need to give me $100.
Robbing the church's money.
I don't know. I don't know if I need to start collecting cans.
Shut up, Brandy.
Redeeming these plastic bottles. I need a few nickels. Tell you, I need a few nickels.
I need some of that copper piping. Take that on down there.
No, man, I forgot collecting cans was a thing.
Girl,
Oh my God.
17 cans make a pound. That's what that 17 cans.
Oh my God, I forgot all
Make a
about
pound.
that.
We used to collect cans all the time.
I forgot. I used to too, but I forgot.
Yo, you got
Girl.
bougie.
Mhm. I ain't too
Oh my
proud.
God.
I ain't too proud because a certain company with a certain redheaded spokesperson with a flip in her hair is getting on my nerves. So, if y'all see me out here collecting cans, mind your business. I need a few nickels to go on this bill. So, yes, we need to manifest some financial blessings all the way around because this is ridiculous. All right, well, also it's Black History Month.
Oh man.
Whether you observe it or think it's necessary
Black
or
History
not,
Month
it is what
has
it
been a
is.
complete failure this year. Oh my God, it's been such a failure.
I think as a whole, it's become monetized too much for it to mean anything to us anymore. I mean, I'm in my 40s, so I remember when it was Black History Month and it was a big thing everywhere. You talked about things, the churches that, you went to rallies, you went to these special programs, and you really got into it. But now it's so monetized. I mean, every store has a Black History Month t-shirt line, all kinds of stuff. And it's just
even Bath and Body Works.
And they didn't even make no new.
No, they just changed the packaging.
Yes. Well,
they just slapped it on there. They just slapped some cheap kente cloth around the candle and said, "Happy Black History Month."
I'm like, I could come up with another cent, at least 1 cent. No, they just literally took watermelon lemonade and put a black dashiki on it.
On the
print.
Did they raise the price?
No, I think the price is. I mean, it's still $30 per candle.
Did y'all know that? Remember, it used to be buy 3 get 3 free, or am I on one? It's not that no more, right?
What is it?
Y'all, excuse me.
Oh, the scents and stuff, like the lotions.
It's buy 3 get 1 free. Buy 3 free is considered like a promotion thing now, so they may do it every once in a while. But it's buy 3 get 1 free.
Now
it's been for a while though.
I used to clean up.
Oh, it hadn't been here. It is now.
Yeah, but I got buy candles. I never buy candles at full price. Like, I'm not just walking into that store and buying a 3-wick candle on an odd ass Tuesday. Like, it's not happening to me. You better do buy 1 get 1 half off, buy 1 get 1 free, buy 2 get 2 free. I don't know what you're gonna do, but what I'm not about to do is just spend $60 on 2 candles.
No.
Listen, if you can go into Bath and Body Works and buy candles at full price, you balling. I'm telling you, you got money. You got money. You got money. Because my candles right now.
Semi-annual.
But see, the semi-annual sale, they don't be selling the stuff that I really want. So I gotta go in when they catch the sale, when the sale comes. But right now I'm rationing my candles right now. Yeah.
Me too, literally. I'm hardly like them. I'm like, okay, maybe for a little bit.
Yeah.
My 3 weeks, I like 1 week.
Don't let me forget. Like, I endless summer is my thing right now. And I lived the other day and I forgot, like, burn that much for 1 hour, not 3 hours, just 1. And I looked at the level, the wax level. I said, yeah, I ain't burning this for a while. We got to take this out of rotation.
I got this new one. It smells amazing. And I bought a candle warmer so you can just sit it on that little thing and let it heat up so I don't burn it. Because I heard that keeps the candles lasting. Because if not,
it does.
I used to burn them boogers all day.
It does, yeah. So if anybody wants to give us gifts, you could do
like
so.
My eyes are wide as hell right now.
That they're wide?
Yeah.
Brenda, your eyes are always wide.
But they feel extra wide, like I'm just.
If there was extra wide, I'd tell you, because that would be scary. Because
you actually look more relaxed. Like it looks like you.
But the light makes me my eyes just.
Look like you've been eating some of those special brownies.
Thank you. That's what it looked like. It don't look
I'm
like you like this.
brownies.
It look like you like this.
I know they're not legal in the state of Alabama, but that's what it looked like. You've been eating special brownies.
Yes, they're illegal. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't consume.
I'm just saying, if you were in California, it would look like you're eating the special brownies.
One that's been blessed.
Yes.
But you're good. You ain't got you ain't got no bug eyes. Cause I tell you, like turn them eyes down.
Right now, but y'all keep me in prayer because I got an old procedure coming on Friday.
Y'all just keep Brady in prayer, keep me in prayer because I got to go back to work in an office in 3 weeks.
Have an exploration procedure.
No, downtown.
Oh yeah. You got
downtown. I have to go. They said it's good enough for us. It's good enough for y'all. Take your ass to work.
Then that means we probably forgot to go back. Probably go back too.
So pray for us all. We got to be out. Me and Jackie and I have to be out in the world and pray for Brandon, her procedure. All right, those are the church announcements. As follows: go on and govern yourselves accordingly. Obey your ushers and respect your pastor. All right, so before we start talking about these badass kids in jail, so this happened in Florida over last week. A kindercare closes at 6 p.m., which is standard for most daycares. It's closed at 6 p.m. After 6 p.m., they typically charge you a per minute charge for tardiness, picking up your kid. Yeah. Well, this kindercare did not. They closed promptly at 6. The mother was running behind. She gets there a few minutes after 6. Her 2-year-old is locked inside the building, looking out of the window, and it's completely dark in there. She has to call the fire department and the police. Fire department show up, they open the doors or however they got in, get the child out. The teachers are under investigation, but I just don't know why they're not under the ground.
They should have busted the doors all the way in where they have to pay to get them repaired.
I wouldn't have left to me, that's like leaving your child in the car. Like if you're,
that's worse.
I'm getting my baby out. Like, what time did y'all close? Like, don't y'all have a protocol that somebody needs to stay in? There is a protocol. They never.
I worked at kindercare. I worked at kindercare, and it is a protocol. You are supposed to do number checks literally all day long, and it's like you have to consistently check names. Like you have to walk around going, okay, Ben. Like it's every couple of hours they have you do this, and you sign them out.
Well, they never called the mom to tell her, hey, are you running behind? Are you on your way?
They didn't know the girl was in there.
No, they didn't even know she was in there. Poor baby.
They was rushing out.
But I mean, it was barely after 6 o'clock though. I mean, it wasn't.
They still getting up out.
You think all the kids are gone? If all the kids leave at 5:30, then that's it.
How did they hear her though?
They didn't do a final check.
How didn't they hear sounds? Like she talks, she's whining, I'm sure. She's scared because they left her in a dark space. Even if they didn't, how did they not hear her walking? Because the floors are always hard. There's hardly ever any carpet in the daycare. So how did they not even hear her before they walked out the door?
Business that they was trying to attend to.
I don't know, but I tell you what, somebody had to see me on Monday morning. I don't care what y'all was trying to do. Somebody is going to have to see me on Monday. So yeah, that's crazy. Just, think about your baby being left. I mean, you hear about kids being left on buses, school buses and stuff like that. Like, I don't understand that either. Like you get to the end of the line, get to the yard and there's kids still in the back of your bus and you leave with these kids like you don't.
It's crazy.
You go through the bus
Well,
come
I was gonna
Right.
say it's crazy I said that because when I worked at KinderCare, the one I worked at got shut down because they left the kid in the bus for 3 hours. So the buses come used to come in at about 3:30 in Dallas. They all get out at the same time, and I'll never forget that mom coming in at 6, like, "Where's my kid?" And they're like, "We don't know." So everybody's frantic. They're getting papers like, "We checked them off." They're checking the rooms. They're like, "Did someone take them?" They're panicking. Then all of a sudden, one of the ladies goes and checks the van, and he's back there still asleep. This was summer in Texas. I don't know if you know about summer in Texas, but he's probably sleeping still because he's so exhausted and
And
high
dehydrated.
and dehydrated that he can't get up. So it was like this huge deal closed down literally like a week later.
I don't shut it down.
Shut
If I was a
down.
parent, shut it down.
I was like, I would have
Y'all
asked
don't
the
need to be
A's.
open.
And I worked in the hood, so you know that black lady,
She did act ass.
the police came,
She
which
did.
I don't blame. Yeah. So,
She did. Yeah, so that's sad. Hopefully, there's no ill effects to the baby and all of that. And, they get that situation together and get some new teachers in there. Because even though, all the kids were gone and they thought you still didn't do a check,
yeah.
you still didn't do a check and you still neglected this baby who is your responsibility until you hand her off to her mom. So there's that. All right. So we're going to talk about juvenile offenders, not any specific ones, but just the subject of juvenile offenders. Like, should they be tried as adults or treated as adults in the judicial system, depending on the crime? Do the sentences that they get, is it fair because they're underage? Some kids do commit some heinous crimes. So do they deserve to be treated as adults? Do they need to be? Is it okay for them to be in adult prisons in an adult setting? And also, do they deserve to get out? When they say life, should it be life? Should it be life without parole? So those are the things. We were supposed to talk about this a couple weeks ago, and then Simon Levy just fell in our lap. So we just had to talk about Simon. I mean, he was the ultimate prize. We had to talk about him. So we couldn't help that. So there's this group called the Juvenile Law Center. And their website is jlc.org. And they say that basically that children are less blameworthy than adults, and that the science behind or the psychology behind not putting them in jail means like their minds aren't developed yet, and it's harmful to them mentally, of course, physically being with adults, and they're more likely to reoffend if you house them or sentence them as adults. So that's from the Juvenile Law Center. There has been like debates all the way up to the Supreme Court about teenagers or underage kids being put to death, getting the death penalty, or getting life without parole. So like in 2005, U.S. Supreme Court abolished the death penalty for juvenile offenders, although there are like a handful of people who were convicted as teenagers on death row. There's still a handful.
Wow.
In certain states. By 2012, this is also from the jlc.org, 79 offenders under the age of 14 had been given life sentences. So they committed a crime under the age of 14 and they were given a life sentence. However, also the U.S. Supreme Court has said that it is unconstitutional to give a teenager basically life. So if you're like in Texas, if you are over 10 and under 17, they're going to try you in juvenile court.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 17, you go up with the big guys. But this is my question, because the reason why I start thinking about this is I was watching the show on A&E. I forget the name of, why did I forget the name of it? And I just saw it. But basically, it's talking about teenage offenders who had gotten life without parole and how they were given the opportunity to retry their cases for resentencing, basically. So they were asking the question based on the crime, did they deserve to stay at their current sentence, which was life without parole, or, based on circumstances of their upbringing, blah, 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 would those sentences be reduced or commuted? So that's why I started thinking about this. So just generally, like, what do y'all think about a kid, maybe, I can't even, over 10, but under 17? Like, what's your take on them?
Absolutely not.
Okay, why?
Because they're children.
No matter what they do.
Huh?
No matter what they do.
I mean, they are children, but I don't think they should be put in there with some old grown men, dangerous criminals, just thrown to the wolves. But I also don't like some of these juvenile facilities either. And they're policing what's going on and what they offer. And, basically this should be a place of rehabilitation, the juvenile facilities. They're not. They're, kids with issues and all this stuff, and then that's bad alone. But now you're just going to just throw them into prison with no type of rehabilitation and no, counseling or mental health help or anything.
So no matter what they do, you're saying that do not try them as adults.
Do not.
And sentence them as adults, no matter what it is that they do. Jeff, what's your take?
No matter how many offenses.
How many times?
Yeah, no matter how many times.
They need to be put into a juvenile facility.
Right. We're saying they went through that process. We're saying, well, they don't get this for 8 years. 10. I mean, say for instance, from 10 to 17, they've consistently spent a year to a year and a half in some kind of juvenile facility trying to get the help that they needed. Because there are instances where this kind of situation may happen. It may not happen for exactly 7 years, but definitely for quite some time. So you're saying at that point, we still want to just keep doing it, and then once they hit 17, then we put them in the adult jail.
The fact that a kid is doing anything that's criminal, a child, there's something that went wrong. There's something that went wrong that needs to be fixed.
Okay. So when you said that, there's something that went wrong. Do you think, and I guess this is, we can pick this up in a minute, in a little while as well. Do you think that there are some kids that cannot be rehabilitated, that no matter what you do, because yes, if you think about some crimes that the kids have done, setting things on fire. I think most kids are fascinated by fire. I think we're all little arsonists. Fire's fascinating. A couple of years ago, I think maybe last year or the year before, there was like a boy, I think he was 9. He wasn't very old. He was not quite a teenager yet. He hadn't reached the double digits yet. He set his house on fire. And I think it was in Alabama. He set his house on fire. His stepmom, some of his siblings died. They were saying that they were going to try him as an adult.
He couldn't have thought that through, that the house is going to catch on fire and everybody's dead. He's thinking, this is fire, I'm bored, this is something to do. Not necessarily doing it with with a bad intent, like I'm going to burn up my house and burn up all my family.
But go to that argument, you can say that most adults don't think it through.
By the time you're an adult, you should be able to think it through, unless you have some kind of issue that wasn't.
But not everybody does. So say if you go to the 7-Eleven that's around the corner around here, and you go to rob the 7-Eleven. If you die, someone dies in the commission of that robbery. The person that went in there to rob 7-Eleven of the $200 that they have and a pack of whatever. They weren't thinking that they were going to kill somebody then. So again, I get that they're kids and they're not thinking of consequences, but most adults don't think of consequences either.
Well, that's a skill that you develop as an adult. You
To
didn't
think of consequences or to be able to have the ability to do so.
the ability to have rationale and think, if I do this, this is going to happen, this might happen.
But that's what I'm saying. Most people don't think that. Most people who commit a crime, a petty crime, and then it becomes aggravated murder, they're not thinking, I'm not going in there to kill that clerk. I'm going in there to rob him.
By the time you become an adult, and you might have missed that in part of your growing up, but as an adult, you should be able to make that decision. And if you did not think it through or whatever, you're an adult. You're not a child.
But based on Texas, an adult is after 17. So we're it's like we're saying, okay, well, they're still children, but also at this point, now you're an adult. So, but you still have that same mind frame. And at 17, you haven't built that kind of skill to understand that this may cause this. I just think that every case should be taken in depending on the case, depending on the history, depending on what's going on, what all they put into that child. I definitely believe there's no reason they should have tried to put that baby in no prison for burning up no house. That grown folks do that just trying to boil water. So it's it's
the insurance.
To collect insurance. I definitely don't think that, but I think that some of the children that cannot be rehabilitated, that they've attempted to consistently help these babies and they don't want the help. At that point, now, do I think they should be doing death? No, I don't think any of that. But I think they should maybe try another type of manner that may change the outcome a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't know if I feel like they should be in prison for life, but I think it should be something that could be possibly, hopefully an option to try to see if they can change. Now, at a certain time, if they're not willing to change, and at that point, then, once they turn 17, it's kind of over with anyway. So.
And also the problem is United States ain't trying to rehabilitate nobody. Most of the prisons are privately owned. They making money off every head that comes in there. The more people they can cram in there, the more money they make. So, but if you look at prison systems in other countries, they don't stay in there for their whole life.
No, they don't. Speaking, I have two examples. One from England. Now, in the UK, very rarely do they give whole life terms. By a whole life term, meaning you will stay in there till you die. They say that, at the behest of the Queen, meaning that if she decides to, but basically that means you're going to die in prison. But it very rarely happens. They might give you a life term, but you will have the opportunity to be paroled and get out. There was a case in England, the murder of James Bulger. This happened in 1993. He was 2 years old, and he was abducted from a mall by two 10-year-old boys. They didn't know him. His mother turned away quickly, like, we've all done. They grab his hand. They are seen on what they call CCTV, walking him out of the mall. Mm-hmm. They found him mutilated. They brutalized this 2-year-old.
Yes, they did.
At 10 years old. Yet they were released at 18. Mm-hmm. So they do believe in that country, like and their names were changed. So in England, they will change your name. Like sometimes you get a whole new identity. Mary Bell, who in the 1960s killed two toddlers. She was a little girl. She was like 9 or 10. She was able to get released and she has a completely new identity. So that protects her as the murderer from public scrutiny. So they do believe over there that, yes, you can get out. Now, also over here, 13-year-old boy, this happened a long time ago. Eric Smith killed one of his neighbors, a 4-year-old neighbor, bludgeoned him to death with a rock when he was 13. His neighbor. And this is the thing about Mary Bell and Eric Smith, is that they knew one of the little boys that Mary Bell killed, she knew the mother, and she would go to her house after the little boy was killed. And, they used to do wakes. So the body would lay in the house. She wanted to see him. She wanted to help the mother dress him, prepare him for, burial and all of these things. She was very fascinated by it. So that was one of the ways that she got caught. Eric Smith did the same thing. He was like, like how they say that a killer or something will always want to go back and insert themselves. They did this. Eric Bell was paroled. This happened when he was 13. He just recently got paroled at 41 years old this past year, in 2021. Now, I don't know if y'all have seen the pictures of Eric Smith as a child. You want to talk about Chucky. And I'm not playing. I am not being funny, but I am talking about, if I was on the parole board, all I would have to do is look at the pictures of this 13-year-old in court as he is on trial, and I would not have let him out.
Look at it.
Even if you look at a recent picture of him. Look at a recent picture of him.
I did. I looked
he
at both.
Still looks even worse. So that's another thing. If you have a child like that who seems like he is completely unaffected by this very horrible, heinous thing that he's done, what do you do with them? And then what do you do when you decide to let them out? Because you did just put this child in prison who didn't feel anything when they did it the first time. They've been in prison for 30 years. What do you do now? Like, are they, they were a threat to society at 13. To me, they would definitely be a threat to society at 40.
What is the prison system doing to make sure that these people still aren't monsters when they get out? Because it looks like they just throw them in a zoo and tell them don't act like animals.
They do.
So they're not even trying. That's what the problem is they're not even. They're basically just housing them in a place and then telling them, oh, whenever you get out. But they're not doing anything to help this person become a better person. They're not helping this person do anything. They're just throwing them in a zoo and saying, you got to stay here for this amount of times. While you're there, you're learning all kind of, especially if you're a kid and you haven't been around this type of stuff, you're learning all kind of things while you're there, and they're going to come out worse than they would have been.
But it's a catch-22, because if the child has committed a crime, right, and they don't get punished, and I'm not saying that they should, I'm just trying to stay even here, I'm just asking the questions, and they aren't punished or they aren't corrected, because just like they throw them in prison and, like you said, throw them in a cage and tell them not to act like animals, these kids are still out here learning the same thing that you can learn in prison, you can learn out in the street. And like you said, something happened to them something possibly happened to them to make them do this or to trigger them to do this. It's not like people are able to get services out in the world. So it's a catch-22.
But is it? I mean, I'm agreeing with you saying, but some kids don't go through nothing and still end up this way.
Right. So how do you correct it? And then there's no services, or there are services, but it's so much red tape to get them. For most people, it is a lot of red tape to get the services and to get psychiatric care. Healthcare sucks. If you don't work for a great company, you don't get to have access to counseling or whatever. Some companies will just throw that at you, like, here, take it. You know what I mean? But for the most part, it's non-existent.
It also depends, as we know, on what you look like, because there's a lot of kids that are being given adult sentences for minor crimes because their parents don't have.
They're poor.
They had to get a public offender, and they're just not the right color.
Right. They're either poor or they are of color. And that is greatly going to skew your sentence and your treatment after you've committed a crime. But it also skews the amount of care that you're able to get to possibly prevent you from doing the crime if you have any emotional or educational developmental issues. It's just, a lot of kids of color, Black kids, brown kids, Mexican kids, Hispanic, indigenous, if they have a behavioral issue, they automatically say ADHD.
Yes, they do.
Give them some medicine. But and that just seems like the rubber stamp kind of thing for most kids, white kids included, just ADHD.
Or they just submit to society and just let's throw them away.
Let's throw them away.
So I remember
go ahead.
No, I was watching this documentary where this boy had sexually abused 2 kids in the home. And so they took him and put him in a juvenile facility. And he had been there for a while. What they found out was one of the people who worked there was like, this boy's IQ is so low. He's a special needs child. They didn't take any of that into account when they put him in juvenile jail. Mm-hmm. Where then he learned all kind of bad stuff while he was there. Like the lady said, he thought saying that somebody had a porcupine head was like cussing.
Yeah.
But now he knows full. He knew all the cuss words and was just doing all kind of stuff. They and the state didn't provide for them to be able to move him to somewhere they needed. The juvenile facility would have to pay for that. And they looked at this case and was like, this boy does not belong here. He does not belong. He has mental health issues, and he did whatever he did to the girls, not knowing that what he was doing was bad. But clearly somebody must have done that to him.
I was just going to say, did someone do that to him? For him
Probably.
Why would he know? How would he know?
Probably. But I think
they ended up getting him in the special school. And then after that, when he aged out of that, they put him in a home, like a live-in home, small home type situation. But if they just was like, whatever, we don't care, that boy would have went all the way to prison. And
stayed there.
Yeah, stay there. Special need, and then learn all this bad stuff while he's there. So when they do release him, he is way off worse than he was when he went in there.
And I think that's the problem. And I can't say this for all juvenile offenders, because some, like Jackie said before, some people don't need services. They don't have mental health issues. They don't have behavioral issues. They don't have educational deficiencies. They just do stuff. But I think the problem is prevention rather than policing. You know what I mean? A lot of people say if you have a lot of, police are to prevent crime. No, they're not. Police don't prevent crime. They police crime after they solve a crime after you've done it. There's no prevention there. Prevention would be the solution, but that's not where we are.
Not in this country.
That's not what we focus on here. We don't focus on prevention because it's capitalism, and prison makes money. Prison makes money for corporations. They work for pennies on the dollar. Half of the things in our schools, half the things that we consume on a daily basis, hardline things that we consume, are made in prisons.
Yep.
The prisoners run the prison. Not the COs and the warden. The prisoners
run the prisons. Exactly. But here's the thing, like with kids, Brandon, you said like it doesn't matter what they do. They don't belong in prison. The example you just gave, no doubt his mental health was overlooked because of the crime. And a jury, that's a problem with a jury system. It's fair, but it's also emotional. You tell 12 people to listen to something horrible, but then tell them, just listen to the facts. Hell to the no. I just heard you tell me that this boy did these nasty things, these horrible things, these little girls who are going to suffer for the rest of their life. He needs to be punished. And that's what we have. We have this puritanical sense of punishment, this fire and brimstone. You must be punished. But that's the system that we have. We don't go, we'll follow the law, but we're also following our emotions. So with some things, and I could be wrong, and y'all can come for me if you want to, because I'm just saying how I feel. Some things with some crimes, I don't necessarily think that a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old doesn't understand that this is wrong. I don't necessarily think that they understand the full scope of the consequence.
Right.
Because like I said, not too many adults understand the full scope of consequence. But you knew it was wrong. And that's where a lot of crimes come down to. Did you know at the time that you were wrong, that this was wrong?
So you know about the kids that were in Australia that was running around and basically killing or badly mutilating homosexuals.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And they said that they did not know what they were doing was wrong because
I don't believe that to be true.
Because everyone else hated, did not like homosexuals. Everybody else was saying things against homosexuals. So they felt that they didn't know it was wrong because everybody hated homosexuals.
Right, but that was speaking. They knew the act of murder is wrong.
Was wrong.
That act of murder is wrong. They knew that if that was the case, then why didn't they just talk noise like everyone else did? If that was what they had gathered from what everyone was doing, okay, then we need to talk noise like them. But at that point,
they made the decision
to murder someone and continue to murder. At that point, you already knew it was bad, or you would have stopped the first time. You continue to do it because at that point, you're like, well, I enjoy this act because I think I can get away with this act because I've already gotten
everyone
away with
does hate them.
Everyone hates them.
It was a whole group of police officers that they found that had beat up a man, almost ran over him with the car. These are police officers doing this.
Okay, but let's bring that to us. Let's bring that very personal to us, the three of us. You have this Black History Month, so let's talk about it. You have people lynching people. Did they know it was wrong? Everybody hated Black people. Did you know that murder was wrong?
But yes. They didn't think of them as people.
Does it matter? You knew murder was wrong. Listen.
I mean, they were like,
not speaking in, slavery time. We're speaking of what happens now. And you knew then that was wrong to do because you can't push that wrong. Now as your thing. So
I do not believe at all that people think that Black people, Indigenous people, Mexicans aren't human. That is impossible. That is impossible to think that people that look like you are not you. What it is that you've been given carte blanche to do what you want to do with these people so you can justify it. But there's no way in hell that you think these are not people. So those boys in Australia,
a sense of fear.
Those boys in Australia, they knew good and hell well it was wrong to kill.
Yeah.
But what happened was it got out of hand because yes, they're used to the taunting, they're used to the bullying, and it got out of hand. And it was fun, and mob mentality took over the same way that a lynch mob does. We know it's wrong, but collectively the group will agree that we all hate them So there must have been something wrong with them so they can die. Not that they're not human, that they deserve to die. So yes, they knew it was wrong. They absolutely knew it was wrong. Because one of the first things you do to teach your kids is do not harm another person. Do not harm them. Don't do that. That's wrong. You can't kill somebody. Killing is wrong, especially if you live in a Christian, in any religious society. You cannot kill. That is that is something universal to all people. Do not kill.
I mean, even if your mom and dad didn't teach you that, the world has taught you that. It has taught you that murder has consequences. Mm-hmm. Killing people has a consequence. So don't do it. You know, the judicial system, no matter what country you're in, has taught you, don't kill or this will happen. So you're taught some way. And I think those particular kids, now the first poor guy, you know, you were talking about, that's different. These kids,
they knew.
They were just doing an act that they thought could work because of what?
Because the adults were doing it too. Police officers were doing it. And they never got in trouble.
Right. So, and it's just the fact that we won't get, not that we won't get caught, we won't be reprimanded. We know it's wrong. We just won't be reprimanded. Because there's a way to justify them deserving to do it. Oh, he's gay, she's gay. He whistled at a white woman. He didn't move off of the sidewalk. She's got a voter's registration card. She's done something to upset the balance of, you know, what is comfortable. So you deserve to die. So there's no way that those kids that did not know. And that's why there's to me, there's this really fine line on teenagers or young people being tried or convicted as adults. As far as the sentence that they get, I think that if you do a certain crime as a teenager, you should be tried in adult court. You should be convicted as an adult because you committed a very adult crime. However, the time that you get when you're still a juvenile should be spent in a juvenile facility. Now, if you can rehab, if it's possible to rehab before you age out, then maybe that sentence can be reconsidered. And you won't have to go up to the big house.
None of that.
I'm just saying that's what would make sense to me.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that because it's just like, you're out of my hair. I don't care what circumstances, or you have PTSD because, you know, you seen your mama beat up every day, or you know, you living in a bad neighborhood, crime-ridden neighborhood, and they don't care about the person. They care about just make sure they're not in my hair, not my neighborhood.
And I think that's also part of when juries are picked. And this is a whole different soapbox, but this is why it's very important for everyone to do their civic duty. Because if your child or someone that you know does a crime as a teenager, perfect attendance, great scorecard at school, sports, extracurricular activities, they make one mistake. I'm not going to say mistake. They do something stupid, causes harm to someone. You can give all the character witness in the world. You could be the best character witness in the world. But if your jury comes from a place that you don't live, your ass is going down. If your jury does not look like you or empathize with you, have any way to empathize with you or connect with you, you're going down, because what they are going to see is you committed this crime. Damn that you are a good person. Because at the time that you committed it, you weren't a good person. You made a bad decision.
I just keep it. What's his name? The white boy who went down the place to shoot the folks and help the police supposedly during the riot, and how he just got off.
Mm-hmm.
Like what he did was okay. And I'm like, and then you're being rewarded for this by going on these talk shows and doing all this stuff. But you went down there, and it was his mom's fault too, because she shouldn't have gave him a gun or took him down there. So she should be sitting in jail. But
we live in a cowboy society. That was all. him not being convicted of that was all because he was white, and it was a Black Lives Matter situation. So that was the perfect storm for a non-conviction. You
And the
have
guy
this kid,
Black.
didn't matter,
Right,
but you can, right? He was at,
well, they said raiding.
right. So the justification is just like those Australian teenagers. The justification is he is fighting the good fight. He is fighting a patriotic fight to protect America and protect what? Businesses.
Kind of
Not
goes with the
people,
school shooters. I
business.
mean, if you think about the school shooters, all the school shootings we've had, those are kids. Most of them are children. And because, well, they were bullied, you know, so they gave them a right. I mean, that I guess at this point, because we all feel differently about it, I feel like it did, if or B is like they need to go, and BW is definitely like no. So in that case, BW, what do you feel about them? I mean, the ones who did not kill themselves. Would you think that a juvenile would be the best option for them?
Yeah, we see that with the last one where the parents basically handed him the gun and said, just don't get caught.
That's that one.
But I'm saying there has to be with these other situations where the parents gave their kids some type of leeway or lack of discipline. Because if that's the fact, Black folks would be going down shooting up all kind of places. But we're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that.
But therein lies the problem, Brandy, because typically, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but typically Black and brown folks don't go shoot up schools. You know why? Because we know that shit's wrong. You cannot tell me that the non-Black and brown kids don't know that shit's wrong and they don't know better. Even if your parents tell you to do something, when we were kids, you'd be like, well, my teacher said no. Your mama said, take this to school and this is your homework and this is right. You'd be like, but my teacher said no.
You'd be like, forget your teacher, I'm your mama.
But you're still going to argue with her. This is wrong. This is a little kid will argue down to you if you tell them something, if you raise them a certain way and you drill into their head, this is this and this is that. And you tell them the opposite of that one day, they'll be like, because what you said was, I can't do that.
My daughter was infamous for, I'll be like, you do it this way, but my teacher said this.
But my teacher said, or you told me not to do that.
I'm telling you do this. She was like, but the teacher said, but I don't understand.
Go shoot up no school though.
Exactly, but what I'm saying, I know they didn't say just shoot up the school, but what I'm saying is you said that Black kids don't do that. Exactly.
Because we know better.
It's because we know better. Those kids know better too, but we still allow non-Black and brown kids the luxury of being clueless. We allow them to be clueless because we say their parents still told them that they could have this. Their parents told them that their privilege allows them to have it. Your privilege don't mean shit. You still went and killed my kid. You still did something wrong. Your privilege means nothing, or it should mean nothing. So if I have to abide by the rules in my bad neighborhood where people are literally passing out guns, and drugs are everywhere, and all these bad things are everywhere, how is it that you live in the suburbs and you have everything, but you don't have to? You have education that tells you that this is wrong. You have access to the education that tells you that this is wrong. You have access to policing that tells you that anybody who comes to your neighborhood and does wrong here is going to be punished. But if you go to their neighborhood, you could do it. No, I do not believe that certain kids don't understand.
But they know they can get away with it.
That's it. Doesn't mean you didn't understand it. You just knew somebody's going to get me out of this. So you still need to be punished the same damn way. There is no excuse. At 13, 14 years old, there is no excuse for you to kill somebody. You knew it was wrong. Again, you might not have understood the scope of what was going to happen, but you knew it was wrong. Just like when little kids try to,
said, it's a flawed system. It's a flawed state. So many years.
Okay, but outside of that, though, so even if we had the perfect judicial system that worked every time, the question is still, if they commit a crime, how do you punish them? Do you punish or do you rehab?
You can punish and rehab at the same time.
Are there kids? Are there people, young people, who commit crimes that just need to be punished?
I don't think a kid just needs to be punished. And that's it. That's like your mom telling you not to do something and you do it, but you don't really understand the reason why she told you not to do it.
The reason is I told you not to. Quit. That's the reason. I don't have to explain shit. Do not step on my damn couch. That's it. You don't have to understand that that this is a white couch and I'm never going to be able to get the footprints out of that couch. You don't need to understand that. What you need to understand is I said that your feet do not belong on my couch. And if you see your feet up there, I'm going to knock them from up under you. That's your punishment.
That's how you learn.
There's no explanation.
No, I'm not saying like give an explanation. I'm just saying, are you just gonna say you jumped on my couch and knocked the boy out, or you say I told you not to step on my couch?
I told you the first time. Listen, you get one. You get one time. Anything after that is gravy. Right. So you get the one time. Maybe I'll let you.
Which is your warning? Which the one time is your warning?
The first time is the warning. Keep your feet off my couch. If you understand that your feet are meant to be walked on, and you put your feet on my couch, and I tell you, keep your feet off that couch, you can understand at a certain age, I need to keep my feet off, especially depending on my tone, keep your feet off my couch. Now, the next time I pass by and you all tucked under with your feet on my couch, and I knock them from up under you,
kids are going to get in trouble. You can't just knock them down like a bowling pin every time they do something. You can't just punch them in the face. They put something on the couch. They ate something that was in the refrigerator that it wasn't.
No, you can't. There are levels to this.
There are levels.
Right. There are levels to it. That was a very simple example. There are levels to it, just like there's levels to crime.
But you still
a petty crime, a robbery.
You still need to talk to your child. Your child is ridiculous.
Listen, if your child commits murder, there's no more talking to do.
Well, I'm saying that you did talk to your child. You told your child murder is wrong. You don't murder. So that's the talk. The talk is telling you that murder is wrong, and when you do murder, the consequence is, because you're taught this,
you may have to go to jail for the rest of your life.
14 to 15-year-old. Just let him get sent to adult prisons.
What did you do?
No, it's based on.
What did you do?
I said it's based on levels.
Did you rob the 7-Eleven? No, I'm just gonna whoop your ass when you get home. When you get out of juvenile hall in the next 3 days, just worry about the ass whooping because you knew you shouldn't have been up there stealing. No, you should not be sent to the adult jail.
Them no chances.
Listen what I'm saying. These are the levels. Yeah,
it's the levels.
So you do something, you get into a fight and someone gets seriously hurt. You knew you shouldn't have been out there fighting. Your punishment should be a little harsher because you actually hurt someone. Now this is a person to person crime. Not that you robbed a business, because that's victimless. But the fact that at 15 years old, you know good and hell well that if you shoot that gun and it hits somebody, they could die. You might not understand what's going to happen to you next, but you know that they could die.
So just like the guy who works for, I can't remember who he worked for, Nike or something. He killed somebody when he was a teenager, and now he's 72. And, he had a good life for himself, and he's very remorseful for what he did. But if they just threw him in there and threw away the key, then he would never become the person that he is.
Did he do time?
I think he did.
Okay, then he did his time and he got out.
Yeah, that's his punishment. He did
his time and he got out. So he's a success story. So he was
But
still
those are
punished. Few and far between. Those are few and far between. And that's not what we're arguing here. We're talking about what should happen. If you do something, you commit murder. Accidental manslaughter, things happen because adults commit manslaughter. That means murder without intent. Did not intend for this to happen to you. Okay?
Like the guy in the documentary.
Right. Yeah. That's murder without intent. That's manslaughter. That's still a punishment that needs to come with that because you still took a life. Now, there are extenuating circumstances that should be considered. Some people should not go to prison, child or adult. Some people should not go to prison for some things that they've done because what they call it in the UK, they call it diminished responsibility. Were you capable of understanding? Did you understand your crime? See, that's the thing. You don't have to understand your consequence. You have to understand what you did.
The thing is, our kids, Black and brown kids, are not given that. White kids get it. They get it. Oh, he's a kid. Oh, they make all kind of excuses why they don't have to go. But it's our kids that suffer. Our kids do less and get sentenced more.
They do. They do.
It's unfortunate.
But
kids have the privilege.
But we don't. I think what I was going to say was, if we never punished anybody and gave everyone, what happens at that point to our world?
I think you also need to rehabilitate them as well. Don't leave them where they are.
Rehabilitate, because kids can act just like anybody else. And as a child, once you've already learned the things that I need to say to give me, when a kid wants a piece of candy, they already know I need to butter you up so mommy can give me candy, because if I do this, she's gonna give me a piece of candy. So you develop that learning, this ability to be able to know the right things and a slight bit of manipulation in order to get the things that you want. So if we were to always, for every case, every situation, rehabilitate everyone, someone gonna be lying and someone will be back. And so some people need to be punished on a higher level, depending on levels and stages, for sure. But some of them have to be, because if not, they wouldn't learn. And then what example are we showing at that point? What's the example? Because now, if you kill somebody,
be punished.
If you kill somebody, then hey, you get rehabilitated. If we told everyone that, and no one ever got punished for what they did, then everybody walk around murdering, because I already know.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished, and I'm not saying once rehabilitation is started and they just aren't able to do it for whatever reason, you gotta have to do what you gotta do. But I'm just saying, give them a chance. You up there. I mean, we know that I'm not the same person I was at 17. I made a whole lot of stupid decisions at 17. Right. And I would be I would be in trouble if I was judged on what I did at 17. And here I am 43 now.
Well, here's the thing, Brady.
Nobody.
Here's the thing, exactly. So the things that you did at 17, were some of the things that you did they deserve a prison sentence? Did you do anything that deserved you to be in handcuffs, or were they natural things, the decisions that you had to make, and then you made them and said, well, that wasn't good, I'm not going to do that anymore?
What I'm trying to say is there are kids who are thrown away into the prison system for hardly doing anything. A juvenile mistake. They're being thrown away
I understand that.
The rest of their life for a juvenile mistake.
And those are special cases.
And
those say murderers need to go straight up.
And like I said, these are the levels that we're talking about. So those petty crimes that those kids get life for, that never should happen.
No.
But what I asked you, and you said that there is nothing that a teenager or a young person can do that says that they deserve prison. I don't believe that.
Not adult prison.
I do not believe that.
And they're doing, and they have shown no signs Once they get of age, they've shown no signs of remorse or change or whatever. You got to do what you got to do. You got to move them up to the next section. They can't stay out forever.
Jackie's example of school shooters. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. You know why? It's because you cannot use the argument at that point that they don't know right from wrong, because you have to plan that shit. If you can plan it, that means that you understand it.
And I still
do not pass go. Do not collect 200.
Shooters, they need to be put in a juvenile situation.
No.
Become of age.
No.
You move them over.
No. We're moving you now. We're moving you now.
To become what? Become a
look.
Just thrown
you
away.
Could become a part of the ether for all I care. Because what I did care about, or what those parents did care about, was those 20 kids in the classroom that you terrorized to death, and the 150 who are going to have PTSD for the rest of their lives. So you're sitting there and someone cares about you to get rehab. Okay, so listen. Okay, let me throw you an example. What? There was a murderer, the Wineville murderer. And we talk about people who get death row and go to the gallows or go to the electric chair all the time. And most of them, when they go to the electric chair, what's one thing that they do? They ask for mercy.
Yeah.
They ask for mercy. And when those people on their way down the Green Mile, and they're asking for mercy, what do most people do? And you've said this too, Brandy. They don't deserve it. How dare you ask for mercy when you killed those people?
Again.
So how dare you go into the school as a peer of those kids? How dare you go into there?
I just
kill those kids who are your peers, who you were in class with, who you were in kindergarten with, and you ask for mercy. You do not deserve it. That is between you and God, not you and the governor.
I just do not think that children need to be in jail or in prison with adults. I don't.
Well, some of those school shooters, though, didn't have problems at home. They didn't have issues at school. I'm not saying every shooter. I'm saying
they have some issues. It's
not all of them.
There's something wrong with you somewhere that you would just go shoot up some folks. I don't believe that
on this platform alone, we've discussed kid sociopaths. We have discussed it, all three of us. We have discussed that there are some children who are born sociopaths. And as we all know, you can't help a sociopath. You can't help them because they don't have feelings.
Okay, I'm not saying they don't need to be punished. Put them in juvenile situation.
That wouldn't work for a sociopath.
For what?
Until they're of age to go into an adult prison. You can't put children and adults in the same place. You can't do that.
This is not true for all offenders, and this is not true for all child convicts.
Yeah, not all.
But I do believe that some juvenile offenders just keep on walking. Okay? Keep on walking. Do not ask for mercy when you gave none. When you gave none. Now, again, if it's an accident, it's an aggravated situation.
Going to juvenile prison is mercy.
I don't care if it is. I don't care if it is.
But
what you're saying is that it's mercy. You're saying that juvenile prison is mercy.
That's not mercy. Putting you in a facility with other kids before you send someone straight up to prison with adults.
What difference does it make?
But earlier you said that
does it make? You're still going to go there.
Yeah, even juvenile. I mean, you don't really learn much in juvenile.
You're still going to go there.
But that's a flawed system. That's a flawed system in our society.
Juvenile is supposed to do certain things that it does not do.
Right. So now that we know that
prison is supposed to do things that it doesn't do.
But now that we know that the juvenile system is flawed, right? We know that. We know that now that it's flawed. How will it help?
Because
if they're going to be aged out of juvenile and go to prison anyway, What's the point?
I just don't think children should be in prison with adults.
I don't think that children should be bludgeoning other children with rocks either.
I don't either, but I just don't think that they need to be put in a situation with adults.
I think that and again, for the very young children who commit crimes, heinous crimes, those things need to be looked at differently for the very young children that commit them, because that means.
What age to you does it turn and they're no longer considered a child or a teenager? What age is the switch come on?
Right from wrong moment?
What age do I think that you have a certain understanding of right and wrong? That you knew damn well it was wrong about 14.
So you're okay with putting a 14-year-old in a prison?
What did you do? What did you do? What did you do?
I'm just trying to see what age you think that they should be.
I'm not saying that this is absolute. I'm not saying that every 14-year-old that commits any sort of crime needs to go to prison with adults. I've never said that. Never said that. I said that there are levels to it. And if a 14-year-old, I don't want you to say anything. I'm asking the question.
Like there's an age where they should a heinous crime.
This is your opinion. And I'm not
saying I said there was levels, and I said it was levels, and according to crime, to determine what would be the best option.
What happens to you?
That was mine.
Because
what they did. What level were we at? Because I don't believe in a kid that set a house on fire in an accident going to the pen. I don't believe that. But I do believe a kid that walks into another school and shoots my poor child who was in there trying to educate, and he was doing okay in life, living in suburban. I'm sorry. I do believe he belongs in prison. I'm going to think that 17, 16, 15-year-old deserves to be in prison for shooting at my child and killing her fellow friends. I sure do. I do think that. But I don't think that for every case.
Yeah, I don't think that's
case by case.
It's
situation.
Not true in every case. It's not true in every case. I'm just saying there are instances where, depending on the crime that you commit, which would have to be murder.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you out in 7 years. I don't want to see you out in 7 years.
That's not what I'm saying.
Then what's the point, Brand? What is the point of sending, if you're 16 and you commit felony or some sort of heinous murder, and again, it's not absolute, but you commit a very just horrible, multiple murders. What's the point of you going to juvenile? The only time you should be sitting in juvenile is when you're on trial. But once they convict your little ass, send him down. Done.
I think they should go to juvenile while they're a juvenile. And once they become juvenile, then move them over.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources.
They're not using no resources, so it ain't a waste of something they ain't using.
So go on and send them up.
You said for them to go to juvie and do the programs and stuff. What age group would that be, or what crime would that be?
Until they age out, basically.
Yeah. No, I'm saying B doesn't say everybody needs to go to prison.
It show no signs of improvement, remorse, or nothing. Then they need to be reevaluated and sent on up to prison.
So, with remorse, you go to juvenile and they evaluate you and you're remorseful. What should they do for you?
Remorseful, and as well as where there's noticeable change. And this is if there was a perfect system and they receive counseling and all this stuff that they should be giving to them because they're children. And then some people are just like you said, without, there ain't nothing gonna save them. You keep them there for the time you can keep them there before you move them on.
But see, that's the thing, like Jackie said, there is going to be an imposter in the gallery because kids and people, humans, period, are manipulative. And if I know, just like on parole, parolees know, people who are up for parole know
what to say.
If I show remorse, that looks good for me.
But it's not just about remorse. It's how you've been doing since you've been there. Maybe I'm thinking
And
of
you
the
can
kids.
fake it.
Maybe I'm thinking of the kids who get stuck in the system and get no help and just get sent to prison, and basically their life is over.
That's not the question we were asking them.
For the rest. Even if they did something bad and someone was killed, like I don't know. Maybe it's not a fair
Did something
Or
bad and someone was killed, or
do you think that
deliberately killed
do you think
somebody?
that for all the way from 10 to 17 though? You think that for 17-year-olds too? Because I mean that's considered in Texas it's juvenile from 10 to 17. You think a 17-year-old?
Well, here people aren't legal till they're 19, so 17 here will be considered.
Well, so 19? You think 19?
That's what when you become legal at 19 here.
That's even worse. At 19-year-old, you know damn well you wrong. At 17, you know you wrong. 18.
I just think they need to spend the time in the juvenile system until they become age to be moved over.
A 19-year-old? You think a 19-year-old needs to be in the juvenile system?
No, once you're 19, you're considered an adult. So you.
I'm sorry then. Okay, well, 18. You think an 18-year-old needs to be in the juvenile system?
Yes, until they're the legal age.
I think there are some offenders who would be eligible.
I mean, think about the manipulation he's going to do on them other kids that's 10, 11, and 12. What is he going to do to them? Because they're younger, they're smaller.
Well, they shouldn't be in the same area as those people who aren't.
See, that's the thing. It's so the waters are so muddy here. There are certain people, yes, they should be eligible to go to juvenile hall and see if there is any sort of rehab or to be given, or see if they can re-enter society. But there are also those that it's just go.
If it was a perfect system and it wasn't the racial disparities there are, then I might think differently. But this is a flawed system in a flawed state built on racism, and
they're all built on racism. All 50 of them.
But the United States, it seems like they don't care. That's their way of throwing people away, and also throwing away children. I just have a problem with that.
But okay, so I'm not speaking of the very young and the very, where that a 9-year-old, if a 9-year-old goes in and kills his mom and dad, but and I understand the diminished capacity.
How many men are in prison with diminished capacity?
We're talking about kids.
But those kids become adults, and that was never taken.
And if you leave them out on the street, they'll do it again. If you leave them out on the street, and that's the problem that we face. If you put them in prison, they're too young, and it's it tugs at your heartstrings, and your morals kind of shift. But if you leave them out on the street, how many people are you putting in danger?
Leave them out on the street, though. I'm not saying.
But most of the time, if they get out, they age out of juvenile hall, or they get out or whatever. And like you said, there is no rehab in juvenile hall. It's not being utilized like it should be. So these kids are going to age out of juvie or juvenile facility.
I'm just saying the United States need to get themselves together.
Well, let's not even talk about the United States, the government, because we already know it is what it is. So we're talking about the way it is in the system that it is. We're not going to reform it tonight. We're just talking about, okay, so I have a real world example of a youthful offender. I know a youthful offender. He's like almost 60 years old now. Guess where he still is? Guess how many times he's been there?
I know some too.
He went to juvenile hall.
Family.
He went to YA. Got out at a certain age, aged out of that, okay, as an alternative.
But he was never rehabilitated, never.
The work program, all of this. Since then, drugs, robbery, murder. since I know this person personally, ain't shit wrong with his mind. Ain't shit wrong with his mind.
I didn't mean that.
Did he go through some rough shit as a kid? So did I. So did my brothers. None of them are in prison. Did my brothers and my cousins and all them make bad decisions? Oh, hell yeah. Yes, absolutely. What I'm saying is that not everybody, and listen to me good, Brand. I'm not saying this happens to everybody. Not everybody is going to take advantage of a good opportunity, a better opportunity, I should say, of being in juvenile hall versus an adult prison. But what I can say is if this person had been sent to adult prison before, there would be some people that would still be alive. So it's kind of like, who do we value more? Do we value society more, or do we value the individual? Their potential to hurt more people because we want to be morally correct? Or do we put them away so that these people, at least these people who are in their path, will not be hurt? It's a catch-22. I don't know the answer to that question. I just know how I feel. Because if a 14 or 15-year-old goes into the store and harms somebody that I know, I give 3 rats' asses what happened to you as a kid. I don't care. I don't care if your grandfather is your daddy and your auntie is your uncle. I don't give a damn. You need to go now. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Maybe that's unfair, but that's just true to heart. I don't care. Take that again. That's between you and God. Now you and the governor.
You already know I feel that way.
George, listen.
Y'all already know I feel that way. I do not care about your past.
What was that white lady named?
You hurt somebody I love. I don't care about you being a juvenile. You hurt the one that I love. You need to go to jail.
What was that lady named? Carla Faye Tucker. She was here in Texas, and she, maybe 25, 30 years ago, she had gotten in with this guy or whatever, and they gotten into drugs, and she was convicted along with this guy for killing someone. She got the death penalty. While she was in prison, she was remorseful. She found the Lord. She ran all these ministries in prison. She was a changed person from what she was at 25 than what she was when the execution date, when she started walking down the Green Mile, right? She was a changed person, right? Your rehabilitation ain't got nothing to do with your crime. Your remorse ain't got nothing to do with your crime because you still did it. You know what George Bush said when it came to commute her sentence, as when he was the governor? They were arguing and they were like, this is probably the only thing I agree with what that man said. They were arguing, she's a Christian now and she's found God. And he said that is between her and God, not the state of Texas. And Carla Faye Tucker is no longer with us, courtesy of the state of Texas. Because at the end of the day, you still did what you did. You still did what you did. Yes, and to your example about the 72-year-old man, I'm glad that he made it out of the system and that he was successful and that he is 72 on this side of that fence. That's great. Mm-hmm. But you still got to pay for what you did. You can rehab your spirit.
That they should just go home with their parents. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a punishment. I'm not saying that at all.
But my original question was, and I agree with you, not everyone deserves a harsh punishment. Especially disproportionately people of color. But even if you are a person of color, you still did what you did. That's the problem. Is that once you do what you do, you got this white person and a black person or a Mexican person, the white person is going to get less time for the exact same crime.
I think it just depends on whatever crime you did.
Right.
As a child, you need to go to prison.
That's the system. I think the system says.
That's what
the racial system says.
think about it, depending on the act.
we're going to give this person this amount of time. We're going to give y'all this amount of time. But the fact of the matter at the end of the day, did you kill somebody? Yeah. Did you kill somebody? Yeah. Did you kill somebody? Yeah.
It depends on crime. It's all about the crime.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying. I'm not saying they don't need to be punished. I'm not saying that because they're kids, they should get out and go stay. Go back to their parents' house. I'm not saying that at all. But I just don't agree with children being in prison with adults. I just don't.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they should be punished because they did something wrong.
And I just say that not all kids need to be with adults, but some of them do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I just don't think that children
because what you're saying is no matter what they do,
that's not
a punishment they deserve.
Yeah.
Not being there with adults, no.
Okay. We are going to have to agree to disagree because, yeah. And that's what this whole show was about, because that's why we didn't have a specific person. I just wanted to ask the questions because I knew that this was going to be a hotbed topic, to ask the questions and really get like some serious opinions without just commenting on a story that we read or, kind of just telling the story. Like,
are we moving on it? Maybe. And I'm asking this question because despite me being in a personal situation like this, even if I wasn't, if it was you, BW, in that personal situation, you still would say that? I know it's hard to concept that because you're not in the situation, because I know it's hard when you're not in it, because I know what I used to think and what I think now. I know that. But I think that also that can play a part, maybe because I'm living a certain situation. But prior to that, I didn't think that. I was like, why would they put a kid in a prison? But now that I've thought about life and realized that certain times kids need to go to the pen. It will help because it's just at a certain age, you know that it's wrong. You know it's wrong. You knew it was wrong because you were taught that it was wrong. And once you're taught that it's wrong, me saying, okay, well, let me give you another hand slap. You just going to go back out there in the possibility, because I have to speak in the system we live in now. I can't speak in a hypothetical system. I have to speak according to the system we live and what we have. And they're not going to get the resources. So if they're not going to get the resources, they're going to go right back out there. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It sucks. But you're going to go back out there and, like Brandy said, and I know other people that did that and still went back out in life and continue to do this for decades because they didn't really get that much. It's kind of like just constantly, So if you were being in that situation, had that been your loved one, could you say that? Could you really say that? In your area is 19, so I'm gonna say 18-year-old. Could you say that 18-year-old needs to go to juvenile?
I believe that kids do not belong in prison with children. Now, say it is a horrible person, nothing can, be rehabilitated from this child. Then at that point, you make a decision. Okay, then the child is of age now. What are we going to do with this child? This child is still the same way. Then you send the kid to prison.
Right, but we're talking about you personally.
A 15-year-old, even if they shot up a school or whatever, I just don't see a 15-year-old making decisions.
But that's not the scenario. My scenario is
I don't think 15-year-old.
Because despite your area saying 19 is grown, we know an 18-year-old is grown. We know that. We know they know right from wrong. Despite doesn't matter. They could say 40, and we still know at 18 you are old enough to really, really know. So you would be like, okay, let's rehabilitate this 18-year-old for hurting my family.
I'm not even saying rehabilitate. I'm saying you keep them in a place.
Put them in juvenile.
While they are a juvenile in a juvenile facility. Then they cross on over to prison when they become of age. I just don't like the idea of a child being put into prison with the prison system that we have now, put into an adult prison as a 15-year-old child. This is the system we have now. Right now, we have no rehabilitation, so this child is not going to get the help that they need. But I just think putting him in a situation with adults compounds it. Let them be at a juvenile facility until they're old enough to move over into an adult facility. I'm not saying don't punish them. I'm not saying that they just serve the juvenile time and then get out and cause all kind of mayhem. I'm not saying that. I'm saying according to your age, you stay where you are until it's time for you to move somewhere else.
But I thought you said during this time you also wanted them rehabilitated.
But if we're talking about the system that we have now, they're not going to be rehabilitated.
Then it's redundant to send them, because that means juvenile hall is just the same prison with younger people. It's just my opinion. I don't think kids need to be in an adult prison. I just don't. Miniature versions in juvenile hall. If they're the same, juvenile hall or a juvenile facility is just the same with miniature offenders.
I don't think children need to be in prison with adults. Okay, and juvenile does try to do certain things. I mean, they're not just, now they're starting to do things. Now, if they realized a lot of stuff, they're starting to try to counsel them and all of this. But if all that, you should get that because you're a child. You're a child. But when you become an adult and you have made no strides to do anything, and you're send them on up after. I'm just saying, don't house them with a 15-year-old in prison with grown adults. I just don't think so.
Okay. Well, I disagree. Jackie disagrees. So we do not have a consensus of the court today, and that's
okay.
And we ain't gonna have one on this
particular subject.
Okay. And that's fine. That's fine. Because I'm not trying to convince Brandy. Brandy's not trying to convince me. Jackie's not trying to convince either of us.
Yeah.
We're just talking. So it's not a thing about we're trying to change each other's mind and telling each other that we're wrong, because we're not wrong. Because her Brandy's opinion, all of our opinions are based on our life experiences and our compass and emotions and all of that. So it's just just discussion, and I'm quite sure that there are a lot of people who agree with Jackie, some that agree with me, and some that agree with Brandy. And if you do, go ahead and put that in the comments.
Ain't like y'all saying that, no way.
Right, y'all be saying that. Y'all
all y'all do is complain.
There are some people who notice your expression sometimes and give compliments and stuff like that, and that's great. But interaction is good. And one thing I never say on the show is hit like or subscribe. I never say that, but go ahead and do that.
I'm gonna start singing.
Yeah, go ahead and hit like or subscribe.
Because we want it.
Yes, we will have more heated discussions in the future. I think I kind of like this, as well as us picking a topic or picking a particular crime or a particular person and then talking about it. But I think this kind of shows the audience where we are.
This is our first heated discussion. They ain't really watched the show.
Right. No.
This is not. If y'all go watch the clip,
Charles,
follow us on Instagram.
Heated discussion.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Watch the clip.
Brandy was still on her bullshit with Charles Albright. She was still on some bullshit with that, and we're not gonna bring that up because that's another heated discussion. Because I'm still mad at Brandy about her opinion with Charles Albright, and I can't get over that. So, no, just go to Instagram.
It's hilarious.
Go to Instagram at Black Coffee and Crime and watch that clip. Any suggestions that you guys have for topics that you want us to argue about, bring it. Crimes you want us to talk about, tell us about those. Again, Instagram and Facebook at Black Coffee and Crime, and then also info at blackcoffeeandcrime.com. You can hit us up there. Y'all have any last words tonight? Jackie? We've exhausted
No.
each other tonight.
I'm not exhausted.
I'm
not.
Listen, I know Brandy's exhausted, but she don't want to give no A and B selection. So I know that she's pretty much
exhausted.
done.
I think that healthy conversations is good for you. So
they are, but they're draining. They're draining.
Put in the instrumental. I ain't gonna be able to. I ain't prepared for A and B selection tonight, but I will be prepared next week.
Nope.
And
Next week we are having all the instruments steam cleaned. I
can do it a cappella. That's all right. Because
the piano
can, and I'll
the piano keys. The piano keys are going to be taken off.
They had instruments. They had their hands and their feet.
Yeah, you don't need nothing. I got you. I got the beat.
See, Jackie, you know what, bye y'all, because I can't.
So building and my